The college football experience, Clemson and Florida State leaving the ACC, and more hot takes episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Networks presented by WinBet. WinBet's now live in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia. From boosted same game parlays to live in-game odds, WinBet is what you need to win. Sign up today. Bet $100, get $100 free bet at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/winbet. Once again, that's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WYNNBET. State restrictions apply. We're also brought to you by the college basketball experience. Yes, March Madness is heating up, and you need to subscribe to the college basketball experience because, as Dick Vitale says, it's awesome, baby. So grab that episode on your subscription list, and remember, as always, to let it ride.
This is Jerry Glanville, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride, brother.
Yes. Woo! Welcome to the college football experience. Clemson, Florida State, perhaps leaving the ACC, and our hot takes episode. As always, if you're wondering who the hell you're listening to, well, my name is Kobe Swinging Database Dan, aka Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
Sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shit.
I smoke and I drink and I don't have stress and I'm healthy.
Oh, yeah. Football season's never over here. Never over here. You know that if you've been with us for the years, but in case you're a newcomer, we talk college football year fucking round on here. We got a lot to talk about today. I am joined by my co-host. Give it up for former defensive back for the JMU Dukes. Give it up for the burrito eating, sideline kiss stealing, wheeling and dealing, Patty C in the place to be.
Hi-oh. Had to warm up the vocals a little bit. You know.
Don't want to ask what you did last night. I'm joking.
Gargling a little of this, a little of that, you know.
We are joined by third man in the booth, the DFS god himself. You can come play DFS still. XFL, USFL, college basketball, every single day. All right, let's go. All right, give it up for the rooftop IPA drinking, homebrew making.
Have your car towed all the way to your house, and all you got for me is light beer.
Tobacco Road living, free lack giving, former Herndon Basketball League MVP. Get up for NC Nick in the place to be.
There we go. What's going on, guys? My beloved ACC. Let's talk.
Struggling. Was that a reference to Nick? Are you brewing light beers over there on Tobacco Road? Let's go. Can't go
honestly,
my
home brewing days are mostly behind me now that I'm busy with kids and shit, unfortunately. But
you're not teaching them how to brew their own beer in case the apocalypse comes? Come on.
Perhaps when they're older. I love all the college basketball fans that like accidentally jumped in here. Stick around a while, guys. I mean, college football. I mean, if you like college basketball, you like college football too, right?
Well, and these matter because if you want to see Florida State perhaps playing in the Big Ten, this matters for all.
Good point.
I don't give a shit if you're a college baseball fan or what.
Or swimming.
All of it matters.
Diving.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rob Donaldson says, love this trio. There we go. Shout out to Rob Donaldson. We got a lot of news to talk about, and obviously can't hide from the title of this episode. So I guess we'll just jump right in on that. But I mean, I guess I should mention that Charlie Strong was hired by Alabama today. Charlie Strong. Charlie Strong.
In what capacity?
I believe defensive analyst.
Okay. All right.
Failing upward. It's going to be a head coach in 2 years again.
Hey, you know what? Go ahead, Nick.
That's coaching
I
rehab.
say, hey, look, I mean, as a head coach, yeah, you might have some issues, but there's no reason why he can't be a fine analyst or a fine assistant.
He recruits well. I think that's the real reason.
He's keeping that Florida faucet,
Why are you
rolling.
Really part of the Alabama
Because
program?
Alabama needs help recruiting, right? They're not pulling in the talent they used to, right?
Well, they're known to look past a murder or two.
Easily
the dirtiest program.
Well, you know what it is? He doesn't slip. There's an opportunity. He takes advantage of it every time. That's why they don't need any real help recruiting.
That's right.
That was news. I'm trying to think if there's any other coaching news. I want to say like the O-line coach from Virginia Tech who spent 1 year with Brent Pry. He came over from Wisconsin. He was hired away to Notre Dame. Virginia Tech losing their top paid assistant.
They're not willing to pay, right?
That's kind of irrelevant for this episode because, we had two things. It was almost simultaneously like these things happen. Florida State's athletic director, Michael Alford, voiced his concern over the ACC and the future in the changing college athletics landscape. He said at the end of the day, for Florida State to compete nationally, something has to change moving forward. He, I believe, referenced the SEC and Big 12 are on the verge of doubling the amount of income. SEC and Big 10. And I even believe he said the Big 12 schools would be making more money than the ACC schools if something doesn't change. And a little bit more money too. I don't think it's like $1 million off. I think you're talking maybe about $10 to $15 million more.
The thing I heard was potentially $30 million behind other Power 5 schools in revenue disparity.
Yeah, that's what I heard too. Well, and the Pac-12's the Pac-12, we don't know their TV deal yet. Obviously, it won't be the same as what they were thinking with USC and UCLA leaving, but it's probably going to be something similar to the Big 12. Now, why that's substantial is because when the ACC set up this deal till 2036, the value of live sports has gone up. So I know you could say, well, Clemson and Florida State and Miami all have been national champions. Doesn't really matter because they signed this deal a while ago. And
the funny thing about that deal was, I think at the time
it was celebrated.
Right,
yeah,
because it brought stability.
Yeah,
but I mean, just like if you're like a baseball player that signs like a 15-year contract, it's like, dude, don't you want? I mean, salaries are only going to go up and up. Stuff's not going down. So don't you want the chance to renegotiate in a few years?
Yeah.
So I mean, at the time, maybe it was a good thing for stability, but it turned out to be a very bad thing for the ACC.
I think it's the thing that it's the thing that's killing them essentially. It's the reason why I don't know that they will be an ACC in like 5 years.
It's amazing that they can't negotiate a clause in there that like keeps them within a certain percentage of like what is it in the NFL when you get franchise player, you're guaranteed to be one of the top 5 paid players at that position in the league.
Wait, you're saying the ACC should cater to Clemson, Florida State then?
No, I'm saying they should make a deal with ESPN that, hey, if the whole, market value of the sport goes up, then we don't get left way behind.
Apparently that wasn't part of the deal.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's not.
Well, I mean, you remember when the ACC expanded, first off, even long before the ACC network and stuff, when they expanded, the problem I think is they went with academics. And
Completely. They got on their high horse and they wanted to bring in these like prestigious academic reputations like Boston College, Syracuse. That I mean, talk about a lack of foresight, dude. That would be one of the things that ruins them also, is that these schools bring really nothing to the table other than their academic prestige, which is meaningless.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to talk more about that in a second, but I want to read so later in the same day, Clemson's athletic director, Graham Neff, also, according to the Charleston Post, said, in all candor, I put it as a need. He said, as far as them changing the way, because everyone gets 7% currently. They're saying essentially Florida State, Clemson, and there's rumors to be that Miami, North Carolina might be part of this as well. We certainly recognize the investment that we've continued to make as an institution in our community and athletics, namely in football, which certainly drives a lot of the value that is important from a television and revenue generating standpoint. Is it time revenue distribution within conferences, or at least the ACC, is done differently? Yeah. I've been active in those conversations within the league, which, by the way, they talked about it this past year. And guess what? They said, no, everyone's still going to make the same, and continue to expect to make it, to take a leadership role in our desire to have that be changed, to have that be a change circumstances urgently, he said. And it's funny because if you do dive into the money here, so starting, this is the bad part, is that starting with the Big Ten, when they add UCLA and USC, which will be after this year, right? Every school will be making $75 million annually
in the Big Ten.
Yes, the ACC schools will be making $30 million. And here's what's even more fascinating.
That's more than double if I'm doing the math.
Yeah. And here's what's even more fascinating is that UCF joining the Big 12 will be, assuming they don't change their thing. I think UCF would be making more per year than Florida State and Miami at a decent amount too. More. I think we're talking 12 million if this article's right. I don't know.
Have they negotiated their
Big 12's got a new
contract?
TV deal coming into play? Yeah.
Okay, and it's supposed
to Yormark just got it
significantly higher than what the ACC currently has.
That's what I'm saying. The ACC is in this spot, essentially, folks, to try to explain it to someone maybe that is a lay fan. Their contract's not up till 2036, so that means the revenue at 30 million, essentially per school, 7%, I guess, of that is what they get each school. That's going to stay the same until 2036, or until a school can buy their way out of it. The problem is, because I know that Florida State's athletic director said, because they asked him at the Board of Regents, how much money? Well, 120 million to get to breach the contract, right? But that doesn't include the grant of rights, which is 3 to 4 times higher than that. So you're talking like $500 some million, I think, if around there, give or take. Right. Obviously, I think this would have to go to court, but.
Right. Yeah, the 120 million is the exit fee, but the grant of rights is a lot more than that, but nobody can quite pinpoint exactly how much it would be. I don't know why that's so difficult. We're not experts here. We're just kind of hearing, repeating what we heard, but it's a shit ton of money. And that's why saying that the ACC might be, non-existent in 5 years, I think is a little bit of a stretch.
I wouldn't rule anything out. I would not be shocked by that either. But if it wasn't, because I don't know. I can say this though, is that at what point does it become feasible for so right now the Big Ten, the SEC, even the Big 12 probably not looking to add those to any teams, because they know that figure to get the grant of rights, they wouldn't have that until 2036. They would have their away games, not their home games.
Right. And nobody has ever broken a grant of rights early, ever.
Yeah, it's super expensive.
Academics.
It's super fucking
right. And so, how much more money? So, what would other conferences have to gain? Obviously, Clemson, Florida State, a couple others are attractive schools, but it's one more piece of the pie that you got to divvy up. So, unless it helps their in renegotiating get even more, and that has to offset that exit fee and breaking the grant of rights. So I don't see anything happening anytime soon.
Well, that's what's interesting, because I think Clemson obviously has fantastic value right now.
Sure.
But I did find that interesting. I think I was listening to another pod where they were saying Florida State only has, so out of the top 5 games of every single college football weekend, the way that I heard this, and I did not double check this, so if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But that Florida State only has had one top 5 college football game of the weekend over the past 5 years, and that was a Sunday standalone game against LSU.
Wow.
Which
they've been shitty over the last 5 years.
But that also, if TV execs that aren't in love with college football are calling the shots, why would that? I mean, yes, I understand the appeal. Florida State's won national championships, and you're bound to get back, into playing better football. But at the same time, I don't understand why there'd be such a demand for it for them. I understand Clemson. But
so the other option is unequal revenue distribution within the ACC. No other conference has that right now. I believe that has existed in the past in the Pac-12 and the Big 12, maybe.
The Big 12, not the Pac-12.
Yeah.
If the Pac-12, if the Pac-12 did, UCLA and USC would probably still be there.
Well, it doesn't now, but I think maybe
we see how that worked out for Texas, though. I mean, Texas said, we're taking more of the money and fuck you.
Yeah.
So I don't think that. I mean, I don't think that's a long-term. I don't think that's a good plan.
Well, also, if you're Syracuse, then why would you say, hey, let's pay Miami more and Florida State more and Clemson more, and they still leave, just like Texas just did. Right. I think Texas is a lesson learned that if you're Iowa State or something, or AKA Syracuse, that you just take all the money you can right now. You sign this contract. You're stuck in this. Fuck you. You know what I mean?
Why are we gonna pay you more to go? Help you get better on your next step to the SEC or Big Ten. You should be funding your other programs more. stiff Miami and Florida State for now.
I want to talk about this more, but hang on. I want to tell you folks out there that the college football experience is brought to you by WinBet. Yes, WinBet is the official online sportsbook for the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. WinBet is active in a bunch of states, and there are tons of ways to win live, including live betting and same game parlays, aka WinBet's build your own bets. Plus March Madness is almost here. There are tons of ways to win. You can get down on obviously March Madness, XFL, NHL, NBA. Sign up today to receive a special offer. Bet $100, get $100 free bet. Limited to state availability, and of course, for our DGens only. If you hit the biggest long shot parlay of the week, you get $1,000 free credit. There's so much to choose from, and all you have to do is head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/winbet so they know that we sent you. Once again, that's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/WYNNBET. Offer subject to change, terms and condition. WinBet.com must be 21 or older. Present state where WinBet is available. If you or somebody knows again, problem call 1-800-522-4700. We're also brought to you by the SGPN merch store. Yes, brand new stuff going in there. College football experience t-shirts, campus edition. Also, so whatever your team is, we'll probably have it in there. College basketball, just have first half unders t-shirts. I'm wearing the XFL Gambling Podcast t-shirts. Hop on over there. We got shirts, hats, sweats, hoodies. Go to store.sportsgamblingpodcast.com to check out that. Also want to tell you that we are brought to you by Talkify. Yes, Talkify. Life is full of what ifs. So what if you try something new when it comes to dating? Yes, Talkify is a new way to meet other serious singles.
Talking to you, Patty C.
Hello.
Yeah. You a serious single, Patty C?
I don't know about serious. I'm an idiotic single.
But honestly, what if they help you find what you're looking for? All right, maybe you're having a hard time meeting great people to date, because let's be honest, this is there's a lot of trash out there in the world. All right. So instead of doing the same method over and over and over, you gotta pull a Dabo Sweeney and say, Brandon Streeter, I understand you've been with Clemson a while. Get the fuck out of here. Here comes in, Lincoln Riley's brother. What's his first name again? I'm drawing the blank.
I'm drawing a blank on that too.
Garrett Riley.
Garrett
I got
Riley.
it.
Nice pull.
Garrett and Lincoln.
But he's switching it up. Sometimes you got to do that. It's time to say goodbye to swiping and bring back the human touch to dating. And that's with Talkify. All right. Confidence is key when dating. But if you struggle to find worthwhile connections, it can be difficult to feel your best when meeting new people. Well, we get it, right? With Talkify, though, you feel confident that you're meeting someone special who was picked just for you. Talkify is the country's #1 modern matchmaking service that is designed to help you achieve relationship success. Yes, their trusted compatibility specialist hand select successful and compelling candidates so you can date, productively. Maybe if you hop on there and you say, I'm a big fan of Bruce Lee, maybe they'll ask you that. They're going to go out there and they're going to try to find you some gal or guy, perhaps, I don't fucking know, on the other side of the planet that might be down with Bruce Lee. And they'll say, hey, why don't you come watch Enter the Dragon together? And boom, next thing you know.
What is this, Office Space?
Her dragon.
Yeah, that's Kung Fu.
You know what they need to do? They need to hook it up. Have you guys seen that new like thing where it's a fake set of lips and like you're kissing the other person on the phone? It's like, Demolition Man. Demolition Man, where like they're making out over the internet or whatever it is through the little like headset. Now they have like a little set of rubber lips that the other person's kissing, and like you're feeling it through your own set of rubber lips across the internet. And so, give me
Talkify doesn't have rubber lips, Pat. I don't want people
to
do
a lot with the rubber lips.
Talkify has something better than rubber lips. All right, they're committed to finding your match. They got a team that's going to work with you. 80% of clients met their person within their first 12 matches. So, and right now, Talkify is offering our listeners 20% off when you become a client at Talkify.com/SGPN. That's TAWKIFY.com/SGPN for 20% off when you become a client. That is Talkify.com/SGPN.
Boom.
Here's what we need. Here's what we need to happen. We need Patty C to sign up. We need him to go out on a date, and we video record the date, and that's part of the show. We air it.
Yeah.
Right.
Rob Donaldson says Patty C's referring to pocket pussy.
That's what it was.
Got yourself some pocket pussy. Right?
Kind of lips we talking about here?
Tell Talkify to hook me up with a free membership, or tell SGPN to hook me up.
20% off, buddy. Come on.
Yeah,
that's true. I'm chintzy.
Get over to Talkify.
Meeting your soulmate isn't worth a few bucks.
Yeah.
You know what? I am all about the Tinder lifestyle. Actually, now they even charge for that. Ridiculous. Tinder, they're charging for this shit.
Talkify is your solution, buddy. Look, and Talkify, you just put in there, I'm interested in the ACC's demise, right? And all of a sudden, it's going to link you up.
I'd be hooked up with the entire South.
Yeah, right? To the haters. Nick,
number one, you're going to get a date with Moneyline Mac.
Oh man,
a bromance is born.
So wait, right now we have this chaos going on on the college landscape, I will say, and I find it really compelling, but I also think this next like 5 years are super important to every university. So when I look around and I see Mike Elko at Duke, look, I was thinking about this. I was like, man, if you're a Duke basketball fan, you need to be a Duke football fan right now and support their football program, because if over the next 5 years they're able to be a winning program, like winning 9-10 games or 8-9 games, whatever, and you're able to draw a decent number, it increases your value to be attractive to the Big 10, Big 12, or SEC, or within the ACC, so that you get a better TV deal when this does happen. So either way, I can't stress this enough right now. If you're a Clemson fan, if you're a Syracuse fan, if you're a Boston College fan, if you're a Pitt fan, if you're an NC State or Wake fan, Georgia Tech, who else am I missing in the 8? Louisville.
Georgia Tech's a big one.
Yeah. Pitt, all those teams need to get their shit together. That's when I look at like Tony Elliott and Brent Pry and I go, I hope it happens for them, because I really think right now, and more so than ever, normally we give programs a hard time when they don't give coaches 3 or 4 years. To me, if they don't win this year, I might consider firing them, knowing the circumstances.
Yeah.
Knowing how fast, and with the portal, you get a bigger name, you can bring in some transfers and all of a sudden chart. Because if TV execs that are not deep into college football are calling the shots, they're just going to look at the fucking numbers. And it sucks, but it is what it is. If not, you're going to find out Boston College is going to be playing in the, and they're going to be an independent. They're going to be playing UConn and UMass as an independent.
Good. Start that Northeast football conference.
That's right.
That Patty C wants.
That old Joe Pod talked about forever.
I mean, Nick, you're an ACC guy. Talk to me. Yeah.
Let's go back to the TV contract right now. So right now, the clear winner is ESPN, because they're getting a Power 5 conference for pennies on the dollar. But don't you think that a strong ACC would also benefit ESPN? And if these teams are going to really, if the league as a whole is really going to start getting worse and worse and worse every year because they don't have the dollars to compete, do you think ESPN might be willing to restructure that contract and give them more money? Or cut it off early or something?
Maybe, but I could also see Fox saying, well, ESPN will need to, because their rivalry with Fox, I could see Fox saying, hey, Miami, Florida State,
right.
Clemson.
That was my
Yeah.
The second point of that was that the ESPN also does not want a strong Big Ten, and we know the Big Ten is right there neck and neck with the SEC. And if they can cherry pluck the best of the ACC, that's something that ESPN probably wants to avoid.
The problem is though, man, if they do restructure and try to get Miami and Boston College, or I'm sorry, Miami and Florida State and Clemson and North Carolina more money, you will have to get the other programs to admit that they're not as valuable, and that won't happen. And if I was Syracuse or Pitt, I would sue the fuck out of them, saying, "No, you agreed on this contract." And I think that's
you're talking about the unequal revenue distribution.
Yeah,
I'm talking about a new contract with ESPN.
I don't think that's realistic. I don't. I think
probably
that,
not. Probably
if
not.
if they reworked it, they would rework it in their favor for Clemson, North Carolina, Miami, and I don't know that everyone would be on a board. The problem is when you have 14 people sitting at the table, you're going to have some splits here. I mean, they just tried to do it, and apparently the vote was no, and rightfully so. I would have voted no if I was Wake Forest school president. I'd say fuck you.
Let's face it, half the teams in the ACC bring nothing to the table. Quickly, we mentioned UVA. You forgot them, Colby. They don't bring much to the table either.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
At least half the teams, at least Duke has basketball, which I know football is the real cash cow, but and basketball second. But a lot of these
Duke's
schools,
also got Elko, where I look and I say, now who knows how long Elko's there? But I think right now, actually, Duke is in a decent spot where if they can keep winning a couple games, you don't have to chart in the top 5, but to be somewhat respectable makes it more attractive with your basketball program. And also, I think North Carolina would also fight for you. I think it's more important now than ever, especially in the Pac-12. In the Pac-12 and the ACC, the two ones that are I think doomed unless they get their shit together. They got to win now. Like I was telling Patty C this before we went live. I go, man, Colorado's Deion Sanders thing. I don't even care I obviously as a Colorado fan, I want them to go 12-0, but it's more relevant just for the eyes on TV right now. It's going to put them probably to be able to find a good home. Spot. Yeah.
But still, they're also, these teams have to have a home if they leave the ACC. We've already talked about the challenges and the hurdles of them leaving with the exit fee, the grant rights. But also, we already mentioned it again, too. We have to have a conference that wants them, that is willing to cut the piece of the pie, one more, thing, divided up between one more person or two more people. So you got to find a home for these guys. You can't just say the ACC is dissolving because they got to go somewhere.
Well, no, that's fair. That's fair. But I do think those 4 that are kind of saying this right now, or have been rumored to be saying this, North Carolina, Miami, Florida State, and Clemson, they will find a home.
To Chad's point, why is Miami included in there? Do they still get that much? Are their TV numbers that? Who cares about Miami?
24/7 Sports is
but it's still
Miami afloat.
The city probably helps it too.
Oh, right now they have what?
Like UCLA
the
still
city won't go to a home game.
True, but they still, when you have that many millions of people living there, it increases your chances of watching it. You know what I mean? So it's like UCLA's value. UCLA's value because of their media market makes them more powerful than UCLA hasn't done shit in 20 years. You know what I mean? Actually, that's a perfect.
Miami
parallel.
had the number 7 recruiting class in the country. Granted, they've been overrated and they've underperformed for as long as you can, as long as it seems possible. But they still, a top 10 recruiting class is going to get, it's going to get a big time invite from someone. You don't want to just throw that away.
I still think though, dude, I think you're undervaluing the TV exec side of this. Like they're going to get an invite because Miami's a big city. I don't think it has anything to do with recruiting class anymore. I think it is, are you in a big market? Can you draw numbers?
I think cachet. Yeah. I think, Miami still has the Miami name, from the 5 national championships.
Yeah.
But
big markets still mattered.
Yeah.
Do they matter as much as they used to? Like, is the Big Ten, are they really happy with Rutgers and Maryland?
Well,
maybe they are. Maybe they are. Maybe they're bringing in, a lot of television sets. I don't know. But it seems like 10 years ago, it was all about, obviously Rutgers and Maryland went to the Big Ten because it's New York, it's DC, TV markets. I don't know. With at least fans, I think there's been a backlash, but I'm sure it still matters. I just wonder if it matters as much as it used to.
So I'm looking right now, the most watched football program since 2001, and Miami is not in the top 20. Clemson's number 19.
Well, let me ask you this. what small market schools have gotten an invite to a big time conference? Cincinnati, no. UCF, no.
That's not a small
BYU?
market. I don't even know they have a huge alumni though.
Yeah.
Like it's like
They have an entire religion.
Yeah.
Cincinnati's not huge either.
Cincinnati's a solid
Well, it's still
market.
not. It's not Greenville or Starkville or something.
Two pro sports teams.
But I'm looking right now where Miami falls on this. So Florida State is 25th, right? Florida State is ahead of Cincinnati, but only by 3 spots. Miami is 35th, North Carolina 36th. So there's that. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, Maryland's behind that, by the way.
Yeah, because they said like you're getting the DC market. Where's Rutgers? Because it was argued that you're getting the New York market, which was total bullshit.
The problem is Rutgers is 58th.
Yeah, and it's New York City, right? They're getting the New York City market. Yeah, right. That's not Rutgers town.
But I think the problem is when I am looking at this right now, most of the ACC is behind number 50. You know what I mean? Like to give you an idea, Syracuse is behind Coastal Carolina.
Well, go back to when the ACC expanded. They didn't bring in huge football schools.
Yeah,
they almost brought in schools that were better at basketball, or they had the academics.
Well, bringing in Miami,
yeah.
Well, Virginia Tech wasn't. They didn't have a rich history.
Yeah.
But
Syracuse, I think Boston College.
If anything, Syracuse had a better when that one was this 05 maybe.
04, I think.
04. Syracuse actually had a great football history. At that point, Syracuse, 80s and 90s were a ranked team, and you go back to the 70s and 60s, they won national championships and shit. So I would argue that Syracuse, more so than Virginia Tech, probably was their angle of, we add this. Yeah.
On the little more sustained value.
I still don't know how big Syracuse football is, even if they were good in that time period. Just because the team was good, they had the right coach at the right time. I still don't know if there's a huge Syracuse football following.
Well,
they're more of a basketball school, right?
Yeah, definitely. But I think geographic considerations were probably more in the early 2000s a thing. Whereas now it's like teams are going all over, or conferences are willing to go cross country for a team. Right. So, yeah.
Right now I'm counting. There's 4 and like from 80 on. There's 4 ACC schools.
That's pretty sad.
Yeah. So I mean, it just
where's Greenville? Where's Greenville, North Carolina?
71st.
Hell yeah, there we go.
They're ahead of Syracuse. They're ahead of Duke. They're ahead of Boston College. I think Boston College might be the worst.
Well, there's your question. Sign up ECU to the ACC.
Yeah,
that's what's Harrisonburg.
I was listening to one podcast where they were trying to guess the future of the ACC 15 years from now, and they were saying like ACC, South Florida, Tulane there with Duke, NC State, Wake Forest, the Virginia schools, but Carolina, Florida State, Miami, and Clemson all gone, and they had Louisville gone too. They thought the Big 12 would snatch up Louisville.
I mean, is that really that different from what's happening to the Pac-12 right now?
Well, it is different because the Pac-12 still controls their own destiny because their TV contract. The ACC is basically like what I find so compelling about this. That's what I'm saying. They're in this spot where
they haven't lost anybody yet, though.
True.
Pac-12 has.
True, but the Pac-12 with the brand new TV contract and a playoff spot.
Right.
Like you said, you start to get eyes on some of those other programs, and that you increase their value, so you renegotiate again in 5 years. You know what I mean? And then you got something going. Like if Deion's one of the most watched teams in college football, or Oregon or Washington, that you keep building into that. If Oregon State keeps improving, if Arizona State shows up, then you're able to sit back down. The thing that's really killing the ACC is the fact that these schools are based off of the value of they were in like 2015 when this contract was signed.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Now with NIL, which and apparently schools cannot pay players directly. So the revenue that you bring in is basically for facilities. Unless there's a way to also funnel it and to pay players to come there.
Oh yeah, I'm sure there's ways.
sure there
I don't
is,
trust the NCAA to be that. To me, they can't police anything right now.
No, I'm sure there's some churches Dabo will route it through.
Yeah. I mean, I do not trust that everyone's playing fairly, but I do think what makes this super compelling, and I wanted us to go through these teams. I think right now more than ever, the Pac-12 and ACC need to win, but this is an ACC episode because of what both athletic directors said.
It's topical.
I want to talk about the ACC, and right now, which programs do you think will have increased their value over the next few years where they could be like, and which one should be panicked and thinking, man, we're going to end up independent or in the new Conference USA or something. Let's start with, I think we all agree that Miami will be fine probably. Yeah. Even though I do find it interesting because I don't think Cristobal is the right man for the job. So I do think they're going to continue to be average.
Less than stellar.
Yeah. So I don't think they'll be drawing in huge numbers because of that. Now Florida State is one that I do think could this very year chart on a bunch of them. If they're able to live up to the hype, I think Florida State will be fine.
Right.
Even though, do you worry if this takes 5 years for this to happen because the grant of rights, whenever that threshold is to buy out of it, or if ESPN wants to renegotiate whatever, or the Big Ten comes calling, which I think we're still a ways away.
And also because and they're just about to sign contracts. How long are their contracts are they signing? Because they're not going to.
The Big Ten has another one before.
Yeah. But they're not going to do anything until that next one, because once again, if they can't get more money, they're not going to sign another school if they're not bringing money to the table. So it's premature that any of these schools leave in the next 5 years.
Listen to this. Well, this is what's hilarious about how bad the ACC is fucked. The Big Ten re-ups again in 2030, right? Once again, their value will go up.
Nope. Yeah.
I believe the SEC goes up again in 25, right? The Big 12 is going to re-up again. They just signed a short deal, and I imagine the Pac-12. That's what everyone's learning is you have to go short.
Go short.
Yes. So that even hurts them more. But also, if you're Florida State, obviously these are critical years here. But what happens over this 5-year stretch where UCF's making more money than you?
Yeah.
They've already been better than you, making less money. Yeah. I mean, it presents just a compelling stories all throughout the Atlantic Coast Conference. But I think Florida State will be fine. This is a big year for them. It's a gigantic year for both Miami and Florida State.
Obviously, what you have to worry about are the small private schools or the schools, Wake Forest, Boston College.
Hold on. But let's go up. Let's go up the coastline. Yeah, up the coastline here, because after that you get Georgia Tech.
Yeah,
dude. Georgia Tech just hires Brent Key, a former Yellow Jacket, and they hired him apparently because they didn't have much money, right? Apparently they wanted other
still
coaches.
Baffles me. That still baffles me.
Well, they're one to me. I look at and it's like, okay, what might save them is they're in Atlanta, but they
have SEC history, right? I mean.
I don't think SEC is not going to go after Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to.
They should. If they are
Why
any
should they?
good.
They're an academic school, dude.
Athens is like hour and a half down the road.
True, but so is
what is Georgia Tech bringing to the table?
The only thing, Nick, that could save them is the Atlanta TV market.
Alabama and Auburn are right next to each other. They're both major contributors.
Again,
but that goes back
the Atlanta
a long way.
the Atlanta TV market Georgia Tech.
No, but I still think to TV execs to have two teams there would be appealing.
There's more Kentucky fans in Atlanta than there's Georgia Tech fans.
Probably, but hey, it wasn't that long ago Georgia Tech was relevant.
They're going to bring in Clemson. They already got South Carolina. They're not. If Clemson can get to winning 8, 9, 10 games a year for the next 5 years,
Clemson
or Georgia Tech.
That's different, man. Because Clemson right now is bigger than South Carolina.
No, he meant to say Georgia Tech. He meant to say Georgia Tech.
If Georgia Tech is not running triple option, I hate to say it, but if they're playing a sexy brand of football and they're winning 8 or 9 games a year in Atlanta, then they have
a 5-year window and they just hired a guy who's never been a head coach.
They're fucking it up.
Yeah,
they're not doing a good job, but they could position themselves easily to be.
I don't see
a
SEC
front runner.
interest in Georgia Tech. I think Big 12, maybe Big 10, because Big 10 likes to get a little academic.
I can see the Big 12
only
I
because
could see the Big 12.
Georgia Tech's stock is so low right now.
Yeah.
We're seeing it in an all-time low. They just ran an offense.
Culturally, they don't fit in the SEC. They really
They're
don't.
not idiotic. Yes, we get it. They have good academics. Yes,
but if the Big 12 is trying to get a little
Texas
more
doesn't either.
southeastern to match with UCF, it would make a lot of sense to go after a team in Atlanta.
And I think Yormark would be wise to that. I think Yormark's been super impressive so far of all the commissioners. Clemson will be fine. I even think if Clemson, even if they ended up 6-6, 7-5, I still think they got the fans. They got everything. They'll be fine.
They got basketball going too.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine. I think Clemson is the one sure bet that will be fine no matter how the cookie crumbles. North Carolina, I think will be fine.
Yeah,
they should be.
Duke is very interesting. A great first year for Elko, and this could be such a blessing in disguise for Duke fans. And that's why I would encourage any Duke fan to get out there and support their football program, because this is vital years right now. Same with Clawson. You wonder if 5 years from now they can look back and say, "Damn, Dave Clawson's had 10 straight winning seasons or 9 straight winning seasons, whatever." That might make them appealing to maybe a Big 12. I don't know.
Duke basketball will always be fine.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
but
But
Duke
I could see them in the
football
Big East. If they sucked, if they had Tony Elliott right now, and we're sitting there panicking, I'm saying, man, Duke's gonna end up in the Big East. Right?
That'd be fun, man. That
would be
a
fun.
Well, I think now if their football could be good, because I don't think for their university that would be fun, because right now they've been getting some of that ACC football money.
Of course not. Yeah, but I'm just saying some of the basketball games would be a lot of fun. But
yeah.
But that's so far down the road, though. I mean.
But if you're Duke and
Wake's up shit creek.
Yes,
Wake doesn't.
Wake is a problem. Wake is in much more trouble than Duke.
But what if you do have a decade of winning football? 5 years from now, let's say this contract's up, and you have a decade of winning football. You don't think the Big 12 would maybe bite on that?
Big 12 would much rather have.
Big 12 maybe.
Yeah.
Big 12 maybe.
Much rather have Louisville.
Yeah.
I think they'd probably rather have Georgia Tech.
I agree. I think they would go for Georgia Tech over Wake, but I still think Wake could be an interesting one if they build that winning culture over a decade. You're talking about people that live in that area over a decade.
Again, they're not stacking the stands. They're not
true,
filling
but
that
right
place
now
up.
it's still relatively, young into their winning ways. How many winning seasons have they had in a row? If you can build on a generation of that,
they already have Vanderbilt. They don't need another Vanderbilt.
Yeah,
I'm not saying the SEC. I'm saying
Big 12.
Yeah,
I keep thinking SEC. I do think you may be right. They might add a little intrigue to the Big 12.
I'm curious right now. I'm looking right now at Wake football seasons. How many winning football seasons they've had in a row?
You make a good point. 10 straight years of winning.
All you need is to build a generation that's used to them winning.
Yeah.
So I mean, in 2020, so they've had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 7 years. In 2020, they didn't have a winning season. So I think that if you can continue another 5-6 years of this,
of 9, 10,
have
11.
you have 11 out of 12 winning seasons.
I mean, think about UCF and Cincinnati were on the outside of that bubble distinctly before they had a great 5 last years, and then they got the invite in.
Well, let's go back to TV markets. So Orlando and Cincinnati is a lot bigger than Winston-Salem.
Well, and the fact
the schools are a lot bigger. You're talking about 2 big public universities. You're talking about tiny little Wake Forest that has like an enrollment of like 10,000, if that.
That's the thing is I think TV execs would look at that too.
Yes.
And I think that would be
the Big 12 is
to Wake.
And Big 12 ain't gonna bite on academics.
I think Wake's gonna end up in the new ACC or the AAC.
Right.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Let's switch over to Duke's. What do you think about Duke, Nick? You think they're on the same train as Wake or what?
Well, I think Duke has a little bit more going for it because Duke basketball is huge. I mean, Duke basketball is, if not the premier program, a top 3 or top 5, and I think that goes a long way. So I think Duke is a little bit more attractive. But as far as what conference they might, I mean, they could go. I mean, I think first off, the ACC is not going to just completely dissolve. So yes, they would probably be one of the teams with Wake in a newly formed ACC. We're talking potentially 10 years down the road. It's not going to happen anytime soon. So I think that, they would stay in the ACC, I think. But it would be definitely diminished from at least a football side of things.
I see Moneyline Mac in the chat talking about Duke in the Big East. But Moneyline Mac's a West Virginia guy, and this is one thing that I did find compelling. That the Big 12, one person was hypothesizing who would they be able to market for or go after in the ACC, and the top ones that came to mind were Virginia Tech, Pitt, and Louisville, which would all make sense for rivals with West Virginia
and all be great
and Cincinnati.
Fits.
And
they do fit in a Big 12. I agree.
And those rivalries would be great. You would have West Virginia, Virginia Tech back. You'd have the backyard brawl back. Cincinnati, Louisville. They just took their coach, so that's they're right there next to each other.
Oh yeah,
as well as Louisville and Pitt. I feel like back to the Big East days.
Shout out to our guy Brett Rinker throwing out the Wake enrollment. So yes, it was less than 10K.
Yeah, man, that's brutal. Shout out to Brett.
Great man, great American.
So NC State, I think they're one of the most interesting teams of this whole mix.
NC State is Virginia Tech,
pretty much.
But no, Virginia Tech's in Blacksburg. That's not
true.
Virginia Tech is Kansas State. Only Kansas State somehow ended up with. It's fascinating that to me the Big 12, the one that acted fast, is the one in the most stability right now. It's very fascinating.
We talked about this when we were talking like this past summer. So it wasn't even their doing. It was they got teams taken away from them first, so they had to react first.
Yeah, their hand was forced.
No, but they were proactive. No, they were proactive because if they didn't add UCF and those other teams, there was speculation that the Pac-12 was going to take Oklahoma State. Or, I'm sorry, not Oklahoma. Oklahoma State.
They only added
Baylor,
those teams
Texas
after Oklahoma and Texas announced they were leaving. So
I know. Everyone was calling for
but
everyone was calling for the Pac-12 to take the remaining, and they were proactive and got teams in before the Pac-12 could get them.
They had to. Yeah. Well, the Pac-12 wasn't ready to move yet because at the time they hadn't lost USC and UCLA yet. So it was almost fortunate that the first domino that fell was the Big 12, so they could react first.
Yeah. True, but I think I could name plenty of examples of conferences not reacting that it's hurt them.
Not getting fucked from the left and the right is not being proactive.
So NC State to me is an interesting one because they're in a city. I could see them being appealing to.
Raleigh is a growing
12.
city, one of the top 5 growing cities in the country, which is unfortunate. People quit moving here. All right, man, traffic's getting worse and worse.
What about the Virginia schools? Virginia Tech, I think, fits perfectly in as far as fan base. That's another thing the Big 12 has going for them is their fans show up to even the new schools they added.
Yeah.
They show up to their football and basketball games.
True.
That's one of the things that really hurts when I look at the Pac-12 or the ACC.
Yeah.
They have like 4 schools that no one supports their fucking Pac-12. It's really like Stanford. Actually, getting rid of UCLA might be a good thing in that capacity. But Stanford and Cal, they don't show up to support. Now, part of that is Cal's also been pretty bad.
Yeah.
I think if you go back to when they had Aaron Rodgers, I think they were packing the crowd. But the ACC. I think has problems with Syracuse football games.
Yep.
I think they have problems with. I know they have problems with Boston College.
The entirety of the ACC is a wine.
Virginia, even North Carolina, who's been like decent, doesn't sell out their games. But North Carolina doesn't have to worry about that. They get the pass. But yeah, I think the other schools have to really worry about that. Where do you think the Virginia schools? Do you think they would be on board with staying in the ACC, Nick?
I could see potentially. Virginia Tech going to the Big 12 maybe, but I don't see them having great options. So I think they might stay in a newly formed ACC 7 or 8 years, from now.
Yeah. Shout out to Kai. Says unrelated, but I've been riding Colby and Moneyline Max basketball picks last 2 Saturdays. So needless to say, I owe you a bottle of something. There we go, Kai.
UVA is probably a little bit on the Georgia Tech level, except for not as good of a market. So if you're looking at the Big 10 will obviously be interested in UNC, but maybe UVA also because again,
I think the SEC and the Big 10 are interested in North Carolina.
Yeah, but
here's the thing:
culturally and academically, UNC would fit better in the Big 10.
True,
and so would UVA.
I don't think UVA would get the invite, buddy.
UVA is an elite academic university.
No one cares about that anymore.
Big 10 does.
I disagree.
Still cares about that. Who's the Big 10 taking on? maybe Nebraska, I guess you could say, is not in the elite, but UCLA, USC, both the elite academic universities. The reason that North Carolina is in the conversation,
they weren't brought in because they're academics.
The reason that here's what the Big Ten has been sticklers for bringing on. What is it? I forget what the term is for like these special programs that are part of like the AAU. I think it is where it's like elite top 50 universities or something, whatever the AAU stands for. And I think UVA and North Carolina both fall on that. I would assume at least UCLA.
I think I really feel like UVA would be a stretch because they don't draw a TV number in basketball or football.
I agree. Right. They would be less of a less attractive option. But if they got Rutgers and Maryland in there,
I think they would put Pitt in before Virginia.
I don't know. Penn State might have something to say about that.
Yeah.
I think Penn State, they would say, "Hey, fuck you. This is a big city."
They might
ask Texas A&M fans how that worked out for them.
They might.
No, we don't want Texas in. Yeah, who cares? Maybe we're not even going to involve you in our phone calls. Greg Sankey involved everyone else and not A&M. See how much you mean to them,
bitch boys for life.
Well, guys, I do have a hat here filled with hot takes.
Yes.
Shall we?
Have we run this into the ground, or is there any?
I think we
points?
may have.
Yes. Okay, but hold on. Look at the. You got the new hot takes in there?
Oh, I didn't know there.
We have two new ones that need to be submitted into this.
Okay.
From
if they're listeners, they automatically get read. Okay.
Yes.
So can you read those ones because I don't have them in front of me? So let's
hot
start
take
off.
Number one.
Okay, go ahead.
From Scott C101, shout out to him. He says Penn State will win a national championship before Ohio State, Michigan, and Michigan State. Hashtag Aller era begins. Or Alar. Is that Alar?
I think it's
Alar. Yeah, I fucked that up. It's Alar.
It's March, man.
Yeah.
It's March, and that guy got like 10 snaps last year.
Yeah.
So we had a similar question last week, and it was, could Penn State win the Big Ten East, and could Alar be a Heisman candidate? Right? I think that was a question.
Yeah. But
so this one's a little bit different. What do you think?
I think this one is more likely than the other one because the 12-team playoffs coming in a year, and all you have to do is get in. Many years Penn State's missed. Penn State won the Big Ten and didn't make the 14 playoff. So to me, they could easily. I mean, how many? If you were to go back 10 years, I think if you were to take the top 12 teams or whatever, anyway, or top 11 teams in your top group of 5, I think Penn State would have been in a lot of those years.
Dude, Ohio State and Michigan have been knocking at that door. They're going to break through before Penn State.
Yeah. I don't know.
Here's a hot take. Penn State will win one more recently than Michigan State. I agree.
I think Penn State could before Ohio. I mean, I don't think Ohio State will win it this year. I feel very, very confident in that.
I mean, and then I love it. It's a hot take.
Well, to me, like if you get in the playoff,
you got a shot.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
you got
Ohio State and Michigan have been getting in the playoff already. And they could do it this year. Michigan could win it all.
I don't think Ohio State will this year. I don't.
Probably not. But
I think Texas A&M has better chances than Ohio State this year.
Ohio State,
Texas A&M won like 4 games last year.
But they have a very talented team, and they brought in the fucking road rash face. All right,
he's gonna
Ohio
solve
State
everything.
should have been the national champion this year. Let's be honest.
What?
They should have
They
beaten
shouldn't
Georgia.
have been in the playoffs.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
They can both be true at the same time.
What are you talking about?
They can both be true at the same time. They were the better team than Georgia for 99% of that game.
Yes.
And they shit the bed at the end and let Georgia get the W. And then they missed their field goal. If they win that, assuming that TCU did bust their load against Michigan, Ohio State probably beats TCU and they're the national champion.
Okay, but they shouldn't have been in.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But Penn State, 4 top 10 finishes in the last 7 years. They'd probably be in a 12-team playoff.
And I think Ohio State loses everybody this year. I think they're due for regression this next year.
They do reload.
They will reload, but I'm saying 2 years from now is when I think they'll probably be national championship good.
Colby, side bet. Who has a better record this year, Ohio State or Texas A&M? Put your money where your mouth is, or put a bottle of bourbon where your mouth is.
The fact that you're even wasting our time by pulling up the schedules right now is a disrespect to our fans.
Well, I mean, Ohio State's schedule's ass too. I feel like, right? I think Ohio State has an easier schedule than A&M.
Easily, you would think.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a question worth entertaining here.
But I mean,
Ohio State will be back in the playoff conversation again next year. They'll probably lose one game, 2 at most. That's what they do every year.
I think this will be the worst Ohio State team in a few years.
Do we know who their quarterback
So what?
is?
They'd lose twice?
Yeah,
Right.
probably. I think so Ohio State has at Notre Dame. Notre Dame sucks though. Yeah, the schedule sucks. Ohio State, worst case scenario, loses twice.
Would you like to retract that statement about A&M having a better chance to make the playoffs this year?
Well, I do think A&M will be they could be a better football team than Ohio State next year.
But that's not what you said. You said a better chance
Yeah.
of making the playoffs.
Okay, fair. Fair. You win that one, but I didn't have Ohio State's schedule in front of me. Now
We
that I have it in
did
front
the
of
Big
me,
Ten schedule like 2 or 3
I don't
weeks ago,
remember
man.
all that shit yet.
Okay,
All right.
so
Yeah.
Penn State is not going to get the better. They could get the better of Ohio State. They had the better of them for
Sure.
what, 3 quarters this year?
To
Sure.
me, all you need is once you get in the playoff, Ohio State could get knocked off. Penn State could advance. You could draw a better team. It's
The
possible.
playoff is where recruiting rankings kind of do factor, and I don't think Penn State has enough firepower and depth.
Dude, if Penn State was to have drawn, I don't know, some of those years.
I guess TCU just made it to the
Yeah,
next.
I'm about to say, what are you talking about? If Penn State drew the right team and Ohio State, let's say Alabama's last year's team would have been a further seed back. So maybe it would have been Ohio State and Bama in the first round in a 12-team playoff. Maybe something like that would happen where you draw Alabama by default of them having a kind of a shaky year for their standards.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden Penn State draws, I don't know, Florida State. Then
I
you'd
like
be like,
it.
hey,
I like the hot take.
If they take a step forward, and Alar really is like a Kerry Collins 2.0, then who knows? Maybe Penn
Not
State
a Wally Richardson.
yeah, he played for the Ravens. Shit, right now Penn State will take that. Christian Hackenberg was in and out of the NFL faster than fucking.
All right,
That's-
guys. I got that
Yeah.
hat here.
Hold on. I got one more Twitter. Well,
Let's
question.
switch it up some.
Okay. Hop into the hat.
Hop
Hop into the hat. Jump into that Redskin hat.
All right.
Give me a soundbite on that one.
All right. Cincinnati, BYU,
Next time.
UCF, or Houston will make the 12-team playoff before Texas and Oklahoma. So the
Certainly
way
possible.
this
Yeah.
reads is that one of those 4 new Big 12 teams will make the 12-team playoff before both Texas and Oklahoma.
I don't think it's that far fetched.
I don't
No,
either.
it's not. I mean,
it constitutes a hot take, I would say, because it's so ridiculous in terms of the value of those programs. But
Well, we just saw TCU do it, and they were in the WAC like 20 years ago. So
and they're in
Big
the
12 is
same.
going to be pretty wide open. It's not like Kansas State, who won this past year, is that much. Their program is that much better than UCF or Cincinnati or BYU or something. So, no, I think the Big 12 is wide open. Yeah. So yeah, I would say that probably will happen.
Yeah. I almost think that's probable.
All right,
Yeah.
dive back into that hat.
All right. See what we got here, folks. I can't forget. I forget who wrote that one. Was that me or you, Colby?
I don't remember.
That
I
doesn't
barely
matter.
remember this morning.
All right. Jimbo Fisher, perfect, because we were just talking Texas A&M. Jimbo Fisher will be fired before Steve Sarkisian.
This is a great one. This is a great one because both could be fired this year. This one's great.
This is a great question.
Who first? I
Entertaining.
mean, if you're
I
looking
think
at
Sark
schedules-
first.
Who?
I think Sark first. Mainly because Jimbo's buyout is still gigantic.
Yeah.
So,
he's been there longer though, so you think Sark might have a little bit more of a leash.
No, not
True.
at Texas. They're jumping into the SEC next year. If Texas goes 7-5 this year, he's fired. Where at Jimbo, now here's the thing: if Jimbo goes 4-8 again or 5-7, he's fired. But I do think that they're gonna still have to pony up something like $76 million. So I just think that in general they might say give him one more
If
year.
they're both 7-5,
I think Jimbo stays and Sark's
Sark's fired?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
so
you
how
might
about
be
this?
right.
All right. So Texas A&M has a bye on October 21st. They're going to beat New Mexico. They're going to beat ULM. If they lose at Miami, Tennessee, Bama, Arkansas, what if they're 2-4 entering that bye?
They're not losing at Miami. If that last year's team was awful and they beat Miami, yeah.
What if they're 3-4? What if they beat New Mexico, Miami, ULM, but then lose to Auburn, Arkansas, Bama, and Tennessee? What if they're below 500 going into the bye?
They still wouldn't fire him there. They would wait to the end of the year because I think the buyout drops.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I do think that they just tied themselves up so tight with his contract. It seems like that's so much money.
Yeah.
The buyout's
but
insane.
A&M is the one school that could say, you know what, I've had enough. Fuck this. You know what I mean? Like, I'd still say Sark. For me, I say Sark.
Texas has a bye on October 14th. What if they are 2-4? What if they beat Rice and Wyoming? They lose to Bama, Baylor, Kansas, and Oklahoma. 2-4.
That's certainly possible. I mean, it's certainly possible. The only stretch there is Kansas, but Kansas always plays Texas pretty decently historically. You know what I mean? Like the past 5 years, at least.
Here's a wild card too. Here's a wild card. What if Sark gets back on the bottle?
Or you want the other wild card? What if Bobby Petrino starts trying to fuck volleyball for students again? You know what I mean? Or Durkin is DC or Adazio does something. I mean, there's fireworks all over College Station just ready to fucking go off. There's landmines. It's fantastic.
That's a good point.
Let me tell you what, Joel Osteen lives in Houston, Texas. Make the call. Make the call.
Wait, who's he a fan of?
I'm figuring if they got A&M, A&M's closer to Houston, right?
Yeah, but I don't think it's drastically. I think it's like an hour if even. I don't know. It's very compelling.
Call up the boosters.
My answer is Sarkisian.
I think you're right.
I think you're right too.
Okay, dive in.
Why don't you give a listener one?
Okay, here we go. Let me find this one. This is from at A Weber Joe. Joe Weber. I know Joe Weber. How you doing, Joe? DJU will be benched before the end of the season due to poor performance.
Oh, well,
that's a hot take.
Happened last year.
But Oregon State, here's the difference. Brandon Streeter, I don't trust as a coach. I do trust Jonathan Smith. I don't think this will happen, but it is a hot take. It is another.
Go ahead.
What's that?
It is a hot take because I think people are expecting Oregon State to be improved because the quarterback play should be improved. So it is a hot take. I like it. It could happen.
I don't think it will because I think even DJU gives him just him being mobile makes him better than dude. Branson was throwing like 3 picks a game. So DJU would have to throw like 6 picks a game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if DJU did what he did last year at Clemson, that's a vast improvement.
Right.
In Corvallis.
Right. Yeah. It's almost like, all right, so if you're going to bench him, who do you play over him?
Yeah. And if Go Branson's such a lawn chair that I would rather even if DJU threw 4 picks, I'm like, no, because if they blitz, he could still run for 10 yards.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or he could just Mickey Mouse this shit and figure a way to get 6 yards or something.
Big.
Yeah.
Lean behind your shoulder pads.
He's got the big bend, but I actually believe Jonathan Smith's.
Yeah.
And I think watch out.
Hey, quick one from in the chat, BSIP, and we mentioned Drake May a little bit last week. Drake May will be a Heisman winner next season.
You have to have like a good record.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that scares me most about let's look at the Carolina schedule real quick.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think they have a tough out of conference schedule. Yeah. They have 10 Power 5s because they have South Carolina and Minnesota. And then they also have Appalachian State.
Who last time they played App State at home, they took an L.
Well, and they lost Phil Longo.
They could easily be 0-4.
They could easily be 0-4.
They could be 1-5.
I mean, the for sure wins. Even Campbell's not a bad FCS, but I'm saying they'll beat Campbell. I mean, Florida A&M gave them a game last year.
So yeah, I don't see him winning the Heisman, but he could put up some pretty silly stats. He could be in the mix. If you said a Heisman finalist,
how many wins?
New York?
How many wins for him to get the Heisman? 8, 9?
It's more than 8.
9 and 3.
I think. It'd be interesting to take a deep dive and see the record of the past 10 Heisman winners.
Yeah, I think you have to have a pretty much.
I'm thinking double-digit wins.
Yeah, you got to be double-digit, and you probably have to be making pretty electric plays.
Yeah, he's capable of that. Yeah. Not
I mean,
happening. Be sip. I like it though, man.
Yeah. Myron Kidd is in the chat, and his one is pretty. Shout out to Myron. He goes, Michael Penix Jr. will be a Heisman finalist. I don't know that that's a hot take because I think that is coming into the year. I think every publication is going to have him as a Heisman finalist for this year.
And Washington won 10 games last year.
Yeah, 11, I think.
At least 10. They won double digits.
Yeah.
I don't think Penix is coming in with enough heat that without an undefeated season or a playoff berth that he's getting in. I think they have to get in the playoffs for him to get consideration.
So who has the better chance, Penix or May?
I would say Penix.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean he returns as OC, and a lot of those receivers could have gone pro, came back.
Right.
I think Washington's going to be pretty loaded. Rob Donaldson said, "Who is this year's Tulane?"
Mm-hmm. Should have prepped for this a little better.
East Carolina.
So last week we did who is this year's TCU. So how about this year's Tulane?
I like that.
How about this year's
come
Tulane?
From a group of 5
is Tulane. How about that?
No, I got answers for you. I got answers for you right here, buddy. All right, UTSA.
Hey, that game is at Tulane. Perfect. We just mentioned last week the AAC schedule, and it wraps up last week of the season. UTSA at Tulane. So
What are you gonna do?
It might come down to that.
What are you gonna do when UTSA heads into Knoxville and pulls off the upset?
Oh man, I fucking love that.
Let's go.
Where's GBO Farms? Where's Alan Cooley?
Yeah. Where's GBO Farms been? Season stopped. I'm out.
Nobody's got to do a welfare check on GBO Farms.
What about Boise?
Tulane was 2-10, and then they go 11-2 or 12-2 the following year.
So who could be with a team that
I don't think UTSA having won 12 games the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Constitutes. I mean,
so who had a terrible record that could have a really good year in the group of 5? I would say. I mean, Nick, you gonna jump into Colorado State?
I might have learned my lesson after last year.
I already got mine picked. I know who it is.
I'm trying to think because SMU had a winning record. Who had a losing record last year? South Florida, but that's year 1.
That's it. It's USF. Galesh.
I'm going to say it's Florida Atlantic with Tom Herman.
How about Utah State? They were 6-7. last year.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
The year before they won
10 games or 11 games, right? Yeah.
Well, they're not that far. They're not that far away.
I would say JMU, but we were freaking awesome last year, so I guess
there you go.
How about App State? 6-6.
Yeah, 6-6 last year.
They could be.
That counts.
Easily.
That counts. Yeah. All right, dive back into that hat, and then this is the last one, and then we're gonna hop into another. And Myron Kidd saying Tennessee will underperform next season. Do not trust Joe Milton. Patty C.
We shall see.
Oh,
I think a simplified system may make him a trustworthy quarterback. We didn't think freaking 10 attempts per game. Who was the guy they had last year? I'm drawing a blank.
Hendon
Hooker at Virginia Tech, 10 attempts a game. Now he's a Heisman finalist or whatever. Milton might be the same thing.
Guys, I swear I'm picking these out randomly, but it fits in. It dovetails nicely. Tulane will run the table as a G5 next year. Well, obviously they're G5. They're G5 every year, but they will run the table undefeated.
That seems unlikely.
They got to play. They're hosting Ole Miss.
Winnable. They knocked off Kansas State at home last year.
I mean, they beat USC.
Yeah, that too, obviously.
Michael Pratt could win Heisman, and he would be the best looking Heisman winner since.
It's a Ty Detmer, he's just said. Right?
It's possible. And looking at their schedule, it's possible.
All right. Well, look, let's sign on out of this one. We have another college football episode up, folks. All right, where we're going to break down the MAC schedule that just got released today.
And the Sun Belt, dude.
I was gonna say that next.
Say Sun Belt first, okay? Put some respect on the Sun Belt. Don't never say the MAC in front of the Sun Belt. Come on.
Until they start owning Tuesday and Wednesday nights. No, I'm joking. Yeah, Sun Belt and MAC schedule next, and then obviously later tonight the college basketball experience. That episode will drop around 9 p.m. Pacific, so midnight Eastern. But there's another college football episode. Stick around. Appreciate everyone listening to the college football experience, but we got another episode on deck. So give it 5 minutes here. This is the college football experience. Make sure you subscribe, by the way, to the college football experience, college basketball experience, college baseball experience, and give it over to iTunes. Give us a 5-star review, please. Come on, do it. All right. Until 5 minutes This is the college football experience. You better start thinking about yours, and we out of here.
Spit my darts, you get ripped apart. Save the cookie cutter mother for 106 apart. Cause of your liquor will I sip your heart. You never dumb it down, dog. If you're smart, I throw out a couple of lines. Biters are quick to cross. Fisher, you on a dick to lie. Pitch you off, it goes. Tits and bras, lips and jaws. I use my common sense to see the bitch and all. Good thing you got the market corner. Kids and malls. Grip the red carpet as you slip and fall off. Another career spear. Thanks for trying to block. You get an A for effort and an F for shut the fuck up. Here's a hint. Put down the mic, you catch a glimpse. And keep your minds wide when you see me. Mike's I sees them. So when you see him, you got a good reason to look. Catch a glimpse.